Good morning.
Hey, morning then.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. Just arrived at the office a moment.
All right. I think Marcus had a challenge with his kids, so he might not join.
Hello. Morning.
Hey, Tanya.
No
Good
problem.
morning. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, I think on the release plan, so we did the release last week, right? With the fixes. Is there anything burning this week?
I mean, we just had a release now, right?
Yeah, correct.
I'm unaware of there being something else open. I mean, other than the secret stuff. We're still yet to test the new release, but we will test it. I mean, we'll deploy this this week, and then provide feedback in case.
Yeah.
Is the secret stuff now rebased on top of this new release? Or maybe this is something to do so that we
Yes, that's one of the things that we have to do. Let me double check. I just did this morning the sensitive config things. So
I seem to be having some network problems. Let me try and reconnect with a different internet. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you're still in VPN. I also had issues. I went out.
Yeah, okay, yeah, just give me a second. I'll join again.
yeah, no worries. But yeah, we have to rebase this thing. Yeah. But yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Hey, girl. Hey. Yeah, so I was just looking, Alex, on the. We have to rebase. Yeah, that's not done yet. Yeah, because
Okay.
yeah, if you look to the status, let's maybe take this away. Yeah, we need to check with Marcus here. I implemented this. MTLS, I think we can use the cert manager for it, right? But we have to do it on the other side. But I would wait till this is done because we need a server. So for this one, we need a server on the config server side because the data server is requesting the cache locally, right? So in other words, this has this has an impact on they have a dependency. I think my understanding was that Marcus was pretty far, but not yet ready for me to review it. So he's I think almost done. That was the status on Thursday. So if you look at the package, then the only thing that we still have open is running. We need to discuss what we have to do with that, because today it stays in memory. So there is still a security issue, I think. Right? If you have secret data, it will be in the clear. And then this is still open. This is this key ring thing, right? We can take it for now and then see how we improve it going forward. But somehow, yeah, there is a security issue there, I think. So yeah, so basically we are, I mean, if this is done, and yeah, so we are in a pretty good state, I would say, right? And the goal is to finish it this week, right? And then we can test it and stuff like that. But so yeah, and then we have to rebase. Yeah, I'll add it to the rebase PR. Yeah, so that's the status.
Yeah, we had some discussions inside recently, so we've just been doing the planning for the next weeks, and we would like for pushing SDC forward within the deployment into production. We've had a bit of pushback on this currently because of some issues with the stability, or not stability so much as status reporting. So there is some concern that the reporting of what's going on with the actual configuration is not clear enough to understand, in the sense that sometimes a config is changed and then things get into not ready, and it's hard to find out where these things are going wrong.
Okay.
And then once either restarting or redeploying the whole SDC pods, then it comes back, or just leaving it for some time, it comes back, but it's not clear that there's something that's if something goes wrong, it's not clear what went wrong and how to resolve it. I think that I've said that if this happens, that they should contact us and be brought in, or to open issues as well. That's why the debug logging came up, because they also wanted to have these debug logs, but these were not available. And I think that if we want to be able to have this in production, I think that we should make sure that we have some. Maybe it's worth just looking at what's going on in config server a little bit, with these with the state machine that we have.
Yes.
And seeing, sorry, there's some mosquito or fly around, and seeing if there's maybe something there that needs to be cleaned up. I haven't had a chance to look into it myself. The reporting is more sort of the experience rather than a do this.
I mean, yeah, I think it's a fair point, right? So the question is, what do we do? Yeah, so I mean, if you look to the current state, I mean, if you look what's happening in the config server, I mean, there is some stuff on the target itself, right? So there is target related state machine, but let's say the target is up, right? So if the target, because that's the most tricky piece, by the way, the target state machine. But then for the rest, there is a controller per target that is triggered by config changes, right? So in other words, if there is a config change for whatever reason, or a target reconciles, it basically takes all, so it does a comparison of, so first of all, when we transact, right, we keep track of what was applied, right? Because we wanted, the objective is that we always want to come back to a known good state that succeeded. You see, right? So what happens basically is, so today in secret, I did a bit of a change there, but because there is this snapshot file where that is retained, because it's easier to, yeah, so the issue with when you do secret information is you alter a config with reference to secrets, then you resolve it, right? So I write it to a sensitive config, right, which is then encrypted, and then we retain the state. So today, so yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a bit confusing the thing. So what happens today is you have a config, or we have a config, yeah, for targets. If there is actually one reconciler at the moment. In the beginning, it was a bit split across multiple things, but at the moment there is only one reconciler, and what it actually does, it takes all the configs of a target and it determines change, basically, right? And how does it do it? It looks at the conditions. So if something fails, if something, yeah, so it basically tries to figure out, is there a change based on the reconciliation, right? And that is having, yeah, some checks that determines if there is a change, and then if there is a change, there is a transaction invoked, and we group all the data. We actually always send everything to the config server, because to the data server, because of the fact that it needs all the intents, right? So that's the logic. So we can, so that at the moment what I'm doing, we can look at the code, because it's actually only in one place. All this code is, sorry. If you look where this is happening, it is happening in the target config. So this is the reconciler, right? So first of all, it checks. So there is some checks that it happens to see whether the target is ready or not, right? So we can potentially simplify that a little bit. Then it tries to get the context that it retains for the data store, right? So that's basically trying to see where the target is. And yeah, so here so all of this is actually check whether the target is. So maybe we can put that in a function somewhere. But actually, from the moment the target is ready, what actually happens is this call is happening here. So we do the transact, and in the transacts, so it is grouped in the transactor right now. the manager. This one, so that is basically two calls. That is recovery config, which is when the target starts up, and then there is the transaction. You have a transaction and a transaction set. But actually here, this is where we check the change. Actually, it is in this function. So here we are checking. So we grab the full config on this target, right? And then what we do is we go over that list. And so there is multiple loops. So the first loop is basically to check if it's not recoverable. That's because it's possible that the config is classified as non-recoverable. Right? So if you had a, for example, a leaf ref that was not resolvable, we put that, we put the state there, right? So basically, if it's not recoverable, we mark it because the ID, so this is just a marker to say there was a non-recoverable configuration because the ID, so the current approach is that if something changes, we also include the non-recoverable configs back into the list in order to retry whether they succeed or not. You see what I'm saying? And so for example, let's say at some point you put a config snippet and you have you create a leaf ref that does not exist, right? And so what happens is that, yeah, so we do a transaction and it fails, and then we know it's a leaf ref, so we mark it as non-recoverable. And so the reason why it's there is because otherwise we keep retrying, right? For something that we know it's not good. So that's what the non-recoverable classification is about. But the thing is that if for example you do a change, it might be that leaf ref is resolvable. So we take that config snippet back in order to try to see whether it resolves at the moment. If it still doesn't work, we will mark it again as unrecoverable, and then leave it out if there is no other change. You see? So that's what this thing is. Then we see if there is something to be deleted. Or this is, if it was not yet applied, and then we check whether the checksum of what, so this is basically checking whether there was a change from the last applied status. Because if something succeeded, we write that config into the status of the existing config. And this is the piece that changed with secrets, because if you write it back, you have, we created another security issue, right? So we don't write it back into the config, we write it to a snapshot, basically. And that makes it easier to recover and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's a different thing. But so basically here, so this is a logic to actually see what needs, which configs we need to group together. And so this is the first classification, and then there is a second pass. You see it? If we change, retry non-recoverables. You see, we add those into the list, and then I try to debug. But yeah, so here we could add some metrics or something like that, right? And so this gives you a list of configs to update and configs to delete. And that list basically goes to data server. So this is some tricky part, but apart from that, nothing happens in the config server.
Are there statuses written to the configs themselves here or not?
Yes, yeah.
That should be.
Yeah. For every transaction, we dissect. So what happens is all of that code is all happening in this piece of code. So it's all in this file, right? the update config with success. So then we have to take all the configs snippets out, right? So because you do a transaction and then we report back on a per intent basis. So we have an error at the full transaction level, and then there is an error and warnings at the intent level. So that whole let's say deciphering is actually happening here, yeah. But it's all in this one.
And then they all go on false now, because I think this was also one of the issues to understand where something is coming from, is that if they have one faulty config, for them it seems, I think that like, because then the target goes false, then the other configs go false, and then they have a hard time figuring out what is actually wrong, because they said that's a bit their issue.
So we could see that we can improve something here, because the other issue that we have is that in Kubernetes you can only so what you only see the last so basically you see the config status at that moment in time, but it might be that there is a config that it had before that it actually worked, right? So at the moment we don't visualize this properly, right?
Yeah, for example, that the target then doesn't go, I don't know what the target, like that the target doesn't go in faulty state because one config couldn't be applied, because there's no issue with the target, it's an issue with the config.
Yeah, so the target should not go unless, of course, something happens on data server that restarts it, and then it gives you a whole side effect. That's a different thing, right? So, because if data server would restart for whatever reason, then the target goes down, right? And so on and so forth. There is one issue still with the target recovery, is the schema. There is still an issue with the schema retriability. I need to check what is the status with that. Like, we had this issue that when the data server restarts, when it comes back, it was not recoverable. So that's why this whole code got changed. So that is resolved on data server, but there is still an issue with the schema server side, because right now we bundle the schema server connection and the target together somehow. So it might be that if the data server restarts, it might be that it doesn't come back, which is an issue probably.
Yeah. The thing is, the bad thing is we don't have one specific issue we can report you that doesn't work. It's in general, just our DevOps teams, they're like, we're pushing hard and they're pushing a bit back to put SDC to production, just because, it has been now a year or half a year they already reported they don't understand what's happening, and somehow for them it's still the same. So that's why we are just, we need to somehow figure, we told them to come back to us with specific issues they find and try to, but they say they're having a hard time also to pinpoint the things, because it's this huge cluster with the 5G core, and then you have one SDC in it with multiple configs and targets, and somehow for them it's hard to reproduce issues and pinpoint the exact issue. So that's why they don't feel that they can use it for prod at the moment. But,
we need to somehow get to the bottom of it, right? The question is, what is the best way to do it? I added. So at the moment, you see that the logs are in debug mode, so you could actually see here what type of configs, how many were part of a transaction and stuff like that. So that's the kind of logging that I try to do, because for me that was also, is this logic right or wrong, right?
Maybe the debug logs now help, because they didn't have them yet. Maybe with them we can try to be more precise in figuring out the issues.
I'll make it that this new version is released this week, and have debug logs enabled, and maybe then we can already get some information if they have time to use it this week.
It's actually,
Yeah. All the code is actually in one. It's actually two places. One is the controller, and then there is the transactor.
Okay.
It's all in that code that is happening. Of course, if a target goes down, that's a different thing, right?
Maybe on another note, like, are you using SDC in Nokia internally for something, or do you know of other people that are using or reporting some issues, or?
Yeah, so we are using it in the. So we are using it in labs and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Then there is the people in Renater who started to use it in France. There is someone in the Netherlands that is using it. But in the Netherlands, they use it with a single config. So it's way different. It's a more simple approach.
Yeah.
So they just use it to transact to the device, but they manage the snippet of config as a higher level.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to do it that we're managing at a higher level, but creating multiple snippets.
It's just, if I'm being a bit transparent, of course, like Swisscom, they're having, like, we are pushing SDC, but of course they are having sometimes some doubts when we're like, when we feel like we're the only ones that are going to use this in prod at the moment. And also if we look at the resources, because I mean, in SDC development, there's Uvim, Alex, and Marcus, and like basically there's
a few.
So that's why we get some pushback, and Swisscom, then they're also like, well, should we really put all our eggs in one basket and use SDC for our 5G core prods? I mean, so it's just want to be transparent there that I mean, the goal is still to use it. This is still on our roadmap, but we're having not such an easy time to argue that.
Understood. Yeah. So I think and probably because of the issues that are experienced, the confidence is not going up, right? So that probably if it would always be okay, then there's a different perception, I guess, right? Yeah. So I think so the question is, how do we get to figure out where the problem is? Because I think the code simplified a lot compared to because before it was even way harder. You had all these individual config snippets individually trying to reconcile, and I think that architecture didn't really scale in my view. So what we have right now, I think, is way more easy to understand. Of course, if there is the operational ability and the debuggability. I mean, if we have to improve something, we have to improve it to make it easier to capture something. Right? But it's true, like an event-driven system is always more difficult to debug. That's the downside, unfortunately. But that doesn't mean you cannot solve it, right? So, but you have to build it in. But so today, so the way it works right now is that all the code happens here. Actually, that is, just to be clear, there is one more. There is, if you look to the code, there is actually, so it's split in two pieces. So when a target comes back up, this thing basically does the same as this controller. So there is the target recovery controller that basically takes everything that worked before, right, and applies it back. So everything that was written to be successful, right, that's what this controller is doing. But it's basically the same as this. I just split them in two because I thought it's easier to understand, right? But also this has a gate. This gates the target condition. Right, so basically, if you look to the target state machine, so there is multiple steps, right? And so the last step in the target, making the target up, is actually this controller, which basically takes, it's actually doing the same thing as this, except that it only looks at configs that had an applied configuration inside. And then it retransacts that, and if that doesn't come back in a known good state, we keep the target down, because it means that we cannot go back to a known good state. If that makes sense. And so from the moment this is done, this can still trigger, but it never does anything anymore, and then this one takes over. That's kind of the current design, but they more or less do the same, except that this one only looks. So the code that sits behind is all in this transaction bucket, right? You see here there is there is a snippet of recovery configs, right? And there is the transactions set. So basically, that's a split, but underneath they do the same thing to the data server, but they just have different input. You see?
Yeah. I'm hoping that with some logs it maybe makes things a bit clearer what the flow is, because I believe you've put logs for most of these parts, right?
Yes. Yeah. In the beginning, they were very verbose, but right now I made them, but I think they add value. Plus, I also add events and emit events to the configs, as well as, but they are written at the target these days, right? So the events are on the target. So if you, for example, if you go to a live system, so there is events also emitted to each of these, right? Now this is already secret, but yeah. So what I'm trying to do in the code is to, and we can see whether it's okay or not, but there is events emitted and there is logs, and the status of the configs are updated with each of these. What is not, and maybe that's also an improvement, is like if something ever succeeded, if you just do a show config, you don't see it basically. If you look at kubectl get config, if this is false, so now the target's not ready, but if this is false, but if something ever succeeded, you don't see it in this, but we could change that, for example, if that helps.
This I didn't understand. If something succeeded, you don't see what?
Let's say so if you look to the configs, they can change, right? So for example, you can say description A and then you do description B. Right? It's probably a bad example, right? On the same snippet, right? So your data changed from one to the next. Okay. What let's say the A succeeded and B did not, right? Or version A succeeded and version B did not. What you see is that you just see the status ready of B, or the content of B, version B. You don't see at the moment here that A ever succeeded. So that some content ever succeeded of this config snippet. That you don't see. We could change that, because that's just saying if applied configuration is not nil, right? We could.
This might be helpful, because I think that this would maybe help make some clarity on this case where, let's say you have 3 snippets applied to a target, or you have 2 snippets applied to a target and they get into ready true, and you apply the 3rd and then they go all to ready false, but actually 1 and 2 are applied, right? this
So
would maybe make this more transparent.
That's
or
something.
Like, or a last applied time or something like this could also be interesting.
Yeah, last successful applied. I mean, this is what we have in our Git, in our one of our operators. So we push to Gits, and there we have the last successful apply.
And what do? You just show that there is something, right? Because you cannot show much here, right? Yeah.
I mean,
here
we
we do a timestamp. It's like last successful apply, and then we add a timestamp of when that was, or how many seconds ago, or whatever, or what time. So then we know that it has been successfully applied at this time. Then it's maybe, easier to have like a timeline of what happened when.
Yeah, and this way you would have an empty or sort of an empty value for ones that haven't been applied before as well. This could be a nice way to show that something has actually happened on this resource, even if it's ready false, right? Because that's it's still important to show that there's an issue. I agree, but
yeah, so that we today don't show, right? So we could show that.
That could be an interesting one to add.
Because I think right now, if you look at the config, I don't. Yeah, we can add some information here, maybe. So at the moment, it's just the blob, basically, that is retained, right? But so we could add additional timestamp or whatever makes sense, right?
It can also be a condition, right? That way we don't need to change any of the structure.
Yes. Yeah, we could add another condition type. Yeah.
And this condition could be last apply or something like this. Or
applied or something apply or
this way we don't have to. This would be a good use of the conditions, I think, for this kind of thing.
I agree.
And you can also then show it in the printer column, right? This custom printer.
Yeah.
Show it there. I think this could be a valuable feature.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you open it, if someone opens an issue with that description, then we can share it also internally and let them give a feedback.
Yep.
Okay. I think the beginning part is to find ways to have better visibility into what's going on, and with this, then we'll be able to also find these points of pain where people don't understand what's happening, because then they can give a bit more context about the state of the system.
Yeah. Okay.
And now that I see from last one, there was this device commit on close session. So we had some architecture, we had some decisions, and we are now. We think it's better to not use SDC for this case. So it's it's not even a CNF, it's still an old VM. And we decided that it's better to just do these transactions using regular Argo workflows and commits instead of making we thought it doesn't make sense to adapt SDC to something like that. And we'd rather focus on, like what we said, like stability and improvements, than to hack some things like that in that actually will be gone in. Okay, we might still have that for 3-4 years. We don't know. It all depends, of course, on our vendor. But just so you know, so we don't need to see.
Yeah, it's all these corner cases add complexity at the end.
Exactly. So that's why we were like, we prefer to spend time on improvement.
This is also a minimal issue currently. I mean, it's a single case that we have that's probably not so valuable to make work, because we expect it to be phased out some point in the future, in the near future.
might be phased out. Okay. All right. Then community site, or is there anything else before we go to community? I also have added some action. I added something in the GitHub. I try to consolidate, but let's first go to the others. Just FYI, I try to consolidate the action into one. I put everything together, right? So this is a proposal, basically, of the actions.
Okay, I'll need to look through this.
We don't. If we have time, I can quickly go through it, but let's first go to the others. Is there anything else on the release plan, or? If not, then maybe we can go to the community. Thirdly, on the CNCF. So pavilion, right?
We are progressing, but slowly now. Everybody agrees in the text of the agreement, so that is a good thing. Now I'm chasing the Nokia people who can sign the actual agreement to confirm that they are the correct people. So now it's a bit of like an internal issue that, of course, I cannot sign in the name of Nokia. So I have to find people who have the signing rights, and they have to sign, and I have to get them. For the pavilion, it's not. We will not get a booth space, but there is an option to get a time slot there is a small stage there in the booth area, and they will announce the proposal. Like they will announce that projects can propose topics into the booth area in the maintainers circle Slack channel. So I will watch out for that channel, and once that's out, we can propose a topic there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an opportunity.
All right. And then, is there anything on Silva?
For the CRF, they know it's the programming committees like analyzing the proposals, and that's what's happening at the moment.
Okay. So if
and
not,
I did submit for one summit Japan, one talk about SDC.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe if we have the time, I can quickly walk through the actions what I've consolidated, right? So the life cycle is mainly for delete, right? So we have that. Then there is RPC action, which at the end of the day is a path with an input. Okay. Very similar to what we have with config.
Mm-hmm.
Then there is a timeout. So I been debating with myself, but so we had that in. And the reason why I debated is because we have a timeout also on the connection profile, but here I think this timeout serves really as the timeout for that action invocation, right? So that's why I think it serves at this place, right? Then we have maybe I should change this, but so we have the same variable override capability like with the secrets if we need this. I just reused the same thing. Then we have apply group, like we discussed before, I think. The only thing that I'm sometimes wondering is the name. Wait, where is apply group? Apply group. Ah, yeah, here. because we said that the name needs to be consistent, right? Of a group, which means that you have to add this in every blob, but I don't know. I mean, that's ergonomics more than anything else.
Sorry, can you repeat that? You have to add this in every blob? Sorry.
Yeah, so apply group is I mean, if you look to the CR, right, I think there is that a proposal? Yeah, here, there is apply group like this.
Yeah.
I thought we said we need the name. In the beginning, we said the name was not optional. It was always mandatory. I don't know what I did here.
I don't remember what this name is for, because then we said we would use the value, the integer value, to decide the order.
Yes, correct. So, and then I'm wondering, yeah, do we need this name or not? Because I think I made it optional right now, because otherwise you have to edit at every config snippet, and they need to be consistent somehow. So that's the piece that I found strange, but
that's the part that I don't understand. I mean, okay, I think it was one of the proposals was that we name groupings, and everything with the same name would go in the same group, but that didn't define the order that these groups should be applied in. Yeah. Unless we said alphabetically or something like this, but I don't think that this makes sense. So I think that just relying on this order value is the better choice.
Maybe I should remove this, right? For now. I mean, I can keep it in.
Comment, all resources declaring the same name for a given target must declare the same order. Okay, so this is basically name groups that then all applied together. Yeah, I think the name is unnecessary here.
I think so too. Yeah. So that's the thing that I thought was not good. Yeah, but seems we agree. Okay, and then what else? The config var, the apply group. Then we have the run policy. There was once on change and always no. So this I did not have anything about. Then there's failure. We had here we had abort, ignore, and continue. I thought continue and ignore are the same, right?
This is action failed. Failure policy abort. Okay. Yeah.
So there was also ignore here, so I removed ignore.
Yeah, that's fair to me. Yeah.
And then retry policy. So in other words, you have. I think the idea is you do first retries if you get failures. If you exceed, then you fall back to this. If you have no retry policy, you immediately go to this, right? So that's why both are there, I think, right? You see, and then lifecycle is a copy what we have. I just put all the types in one place. This is just a copy of what we have, so I just copied them because I thought it's easier to reason about. Right?
Yeah, everything's there. Sure.
Yeah. And then so that's basically it, right? So that's the proposal. So I think we are have a look, but there's only a few changes that I did, and I had this question about this name, I think, but I left it in for now. But I think we should remove it for now.
Sorry, the name from the
apply group. Sorry, the apply group. This one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. Yeah.
If it's just these removed, like this ignore removed and this name to remove, for me, this makes sense.
Yeah. It's more or less the same as we had before. I said I will consolidate it all in one. You remember that I said, so that's what I try to do. And see, I try to clean up a little bit and with some text, but
One thing that I just saw, sorry, could you go down to this retry policy and retry reason? This is a status, right?
So this, correct. So that was something I still wanted to remove. I think we only need those two, right?
We should have, I think we need the third one, but
a timer.
No, the retry on, because I think what we had in mind was that we would have one case which is no retry at all, right? Which is sort of a one shot. The other one was retry on config apply. For example, if a config was applied, we should rerun it. Can you go?
Is that not this run thing? Is that not this?
Yes. Okay. Yes, that probably is where the action is executed by a participant. Let me quickly read this.
Yeah.
Run policy once, run policy on change, run policy. So on change versus always on change means that there has been a change to the config and a transaction is sent, and always is every time a transaction is sent. Can you explain the two? Just
always means you always run it, right? So you don't look at any state, right? And then here we could actually we could probably make it more easy or more understandable, is that you have two changes potentially. You have a change in the action, right? And you have a change in the previous applied config, right? So if something changed prior to this action order.
Yes,
and
exactly.
we have to distinguish the two, right? Maybe we have to add a third. So let's maybe write down the things, right? Otherwise we'll forget. So basically,
remove name from apply group, right?
Yeah. Then we said retry on can be removed, I think, right? Could that be removed?
Yeah, or put in the state.
Yeah.
Be a
but
status.
remove from retry policy, right?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And then what else did we say? And then run policy, right? So we have to distinguish on change of the action RPC, right? Versus previous applied config, right? Or
so yeah, hierarchically parent, right?
Yeah.
How
versus parent config order, right? Change.
Yeah, something like this.
Like that, yeah.
The one thing here that to me, on change versus one shot. Does one shot mean that then if you edit one of these resources after it was applied, it would still not be applied? Because to me,
once means you do it, you do it, and then if you somehow mark that you did it, right? And then you never execute it again.
Even if someone changes it.
No, if you change the spec, you still have to do it, I think.
But then what's the difference between a once and on change?
That's a good question. Yeah. So then this maybe should go through this parent policy, right? So that's So this should actually be related to the parent policy stuff, right? Yeah. So that's what I wanted to clarify here, is that we distinguish on change, right? So it's what we are basically saying is that if there is a change of the RPC input, we always run it, right? So there is no distinction. Whereas here, if it's once, even if the previous applied config did not change, we will not run it, right? In once, if the previous if the parent changed, we don't run it. If it's unchanged, we don't run it. In case of on change, it's the same, right? On change. In the case, so in the case of once, when the parent changes, we don't
Correct.
We don't execute it. Whereas if it's on change, we will re-execute. So that's the difference.
Yeah. For me, this is clearer.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's clear. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is kind of, I think we more or less are in alignment. I think then the only question on actions that I still have is how in config server, we just compute all the orders, we send it to the data server, and then the data server executes them in the order buckets, right? And then if he applies the retry policies and all that stuff, right? And then the transaction will then either succeed or fail, right?
Yeah, within a transaction, it makes sense that transaction is encompassing this.
Yeah, and it should also take care of the rollback in that case, right?
Yes. Yeah. Is that something we also want to think about? What to do in case of rollback? Because actions, maybe you don't execute an action again on rollback, for example.
Yes. So that we can also add some mobs, right?
I remember this is one that maybe there's something that you create something on. You send an action to create something on a device when it's first applied, but then if it were to be rolled back, you'd need to delete this, for example. This could also be a case, right? So that there's two options, right? One is that we just repeat it anyway. The other one is maybe we need to switch a setting. For example, you have enable tracing is the action that you have. You do this, but then a configuration that's later on fails and you roll back the transaction then. Now you need to disable tracing, which could be a separate RPC action. So this is also something that we need to think about, where we have our, if you go to the top, sorry, quickly. I don't remember now what this is called.
I think it's action RPC, I think. RPC action, so we could say a rollback RPC action.
Yeah, something like this.
Yeah.
This is something just to keep in mind. I think this could be...
no, that's a good idea. I think we probably we take RPC action and rollback RPC action, right? So we have both.
Yeah.
And if there's no rollback RPC action, you don't execute anything. If there is a rollback RPC action.
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, I like this. The question there is, if we have a rollback RPC action, do we need to care about the failure policy? Probably not, I guess.
At some point, it should be deterministic. I mean, we should, but I think this is the API for now. I think we need to have a pretty good view on the API. I think there will be still corner cases that fall out that we have to define, right? So, so at least I think it should be good enough to start an implementation is what I'm trying to say. This is, in my view, good enough to do an implementation. What about failures? We could add rollback failure scenarios and stuff, right?
Yeah, the question is if we have, like, instead of having, we have RPC action next to rollback RPC action, it could be that we have a section for the RPC where we have all of these things defined.
Correct. So,
rollback where we have those things defined, which might be, which might, if that would change then the API, then I think it's better to think about this a little bit before we set the API. Otherwise, it's quite a lot of change, but just also something to keep in mind.
True. Yeah. Okay, but we have, I think, a good high-level view of what needs to happen, right, to start it.
Yep.
And okay.
Then
all right, that's it, I think.
Yeah. Thanks. It's good discussion.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think on the debuggability operation stuff, let's see what we can do, right? Because that will be important, irrespective.
Yeah, we need to rebuild some trust, I think, there. Or confidence, at least, there. let's see. Yeah, we'll have this debug stuff. We'll see what we can pick up from this, and then obviously feed this back.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thanks.
We'll be in
Nice week.
touch.
Thanks
Cheers,
everyone.
bye.
For the week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.